skin, wrapping your fingers around her. Late at night, drinking, you let it linger, you couldn't quit. I think I'll leave it all behind. Love being the one. I won't waste my time. Fuck it with you, oh, let me show you how. Find me another. You can't break me down. Under the covers.
When I need it nice, I'll lose it all. Hear you call. Yes, I know your thoughts and you know mine. We're flexible, we chose to be blind. But is it such a stress to call you one of my kind? Left foot, right foot, turn around. Keep that whole shit underground. What I wouldn't do to say you call me home now. Left foot, right foot, turn around. Keep that whole shit underground. What I wouldn't do to feel your skin to mine now. I just breathe it in, see my breath. Never know when I need it next. I lose it all, see it all. Ain't it strange, darling, you never know.
Just you and I flying high. I wish to never understand. We're just living life. See your face in the flashing lights. Your cold eyes, you open your veins. You're going down in flames. Just you and I flying high. I wish to never understand. We're just living life. See your face in the flashing lights. Your cold eyes, you open your veins. You're going down in flames.
get up, sip and pull you closer, like these waves in my cup. Travel far from over, 'cause I can't get enough. Come on in, the water's fine. Oh yeah. If you take the first step, oh, no, you'll find that the tide is getting high, but I'm holding you so tight. So you can sway with the palms and the pines while you sink to the sky, get a breath of the fresh air. Just you and I in the back of your mind, or you can dance in the sand with the drink in your hand. But baby, I'm all set and we lie, 'cause loving you is paradise. Spill the sun on my skin, taking your vibration. Wanna feel you again. Faded conversation, only place I exist. Come on and know what is fine, yeah. If you take the first step, oh, no, you'll find that the tide is getting high, but I'm holding you so tight. So you can sway with the palms and the pines while you sink to the sky, get a breath of the fresh air. Just you and I in the back of your mind, or you can dance in the sand with the drink in your hand. But baby, I'm all set and we lie, 'cause loving you is paradise. Loving you is paradise, so paradise. 'Cause loving you is paradise, so paradise, yeah. Loving you is paradise, so paradise. Loving you is paradise, so paradise.
I saw you standing there and I knew I'm done for, it's over, I'm through. And playing games from the start, sinking your nails in my heart. You bring out the worst in me. You bring out the worst in me. Back in my rear view, nothing, no nothing can change you. No, I decided to play when I knew you were fire. No, it started off warm, but now I hear the choir. Yeah, who do you think you are? Leaving your keys in my car. Bring out the worst in me. You bring out the worst in me.
become your go-to. I guess she's me without the attitude. It's time to put her in your rear view. Hey, yeah, hey, yeah. Looks like you need to be rescued. You're asking what's next on the menu, but she's sticking to you like glue. Hey, yeah, hey, yeah. I know you're here with somebody, but I'm going home with that body, yeah. So tell her she can move. I really wanna move that body, move that body. Move that body, move that body, body. Move that body, yeah. Move that body, move that body.
Keep falling back, yeah, I keep falling back. Oh, 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 oh. Try to give it up, I try to let it all go. Oh, oh. I think I need you, think I can live without all of your flaws and all of your ups and downs. I really need you to work this out for me. Now I'm back at square one and there's no turning back to what we were and all we had. Ain't nothing I can do about that. I know I let you down. I'm back at square one and there's no turning back to what we were and all we had. Ain't nothing I can do about that. I know I let you down.
a gamble, I'll pay the price. Thought I could handle something undefined. Give me a reason to raise the stakes, 'cause I can't walk away. You keep taking the upper hand and you're leaving me exposed. I don't think I stand a chance when your feelings never show. Your love is a wild card, folding is the hard part. I don't know if you hold me or leave me here feeling lonely. Your love is a wild card, can't let this go too far. I don't know if you hold me or break my heart, 'cause your love is a wild card. Round two, but you're still face down. I can't get to you. I'm in the red, so cut to the chase. What will it be today? Yeah. You keep taking the upper hand and you're leaving me exposed. I don't think I stand a chance when your feelings never show. Your love is a wild card, can't let this go too far. I don't know if you hold me or break my heart, 'cause your love is a wild card. The wild card. 'Cause your love is a wild card.
If I slip into the ocean, swallow me up in one motion, though. Seize my queen, I show devotion. Where's my lifeline, Mr. Bosun? I ain't ready to let go now. I ain't ready to let go. I ain't ready to let go. I ain't ready to let go now.
spell on you. Because you're mine. You better stop those things you do. I said, watch out. I ain't lying. Oh, I ain't lying. I can't stand it. 'Cause you're running around it. I can't stand it. 'Cause you're putting me down. So I put a spell on you. Because you're mine. Oh, you're mine, you're mine.
I know they don't sound the way I planned them to be, but if you wait around
You know what to do. I'm gonna always be there. Sometimes if I shout, it's not what's intended. These words just come out with no cross to bear. I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking of the right words to say. I know they don't sound the way I planned them to be. But if you wait around a while, I'll make you fall for me. I promise you. I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking of the right words to say. I know they don't sound the way I planned them to be. And if I had to walk the world, I'd make you fall for me. I promise you, I promise you I will.
feel our love is only a smile away, getting so much closer to me every day. With or without, it's easy for us, without a doubt. As we spend our days searching for ways, love is all the go, so is radio. Now that we've learned to deceive you.
About the day when one of us might fall weak and blindly into another's arms. Demands of gain from face with just another lover's false alarm. And now it's over, both of us free, but I feel colder. Thousand tortured lives have fallen, wounded, dying, cut down by the questions that we sharpen just to save our losing days. We thought with nothing more to lose, we tear our hearts with jagged truths, and everything we'd clung to for so long just slipped away. And now it's over, both of us free, and I feel colder. I was tired of thinking that our love could shine. Your thoughts of our arrangement were really not like mine. I thought it over, and it was plain to see the love you said you once needed could just not come from me. And now it's over, both of us free, but I feel colder. And now we're moving to new beginnings, but as we move we look once behind to see what we might find. Our last loves and old thoughts of our nights of winnings, that lunchtime grasp at last wanting minds.
It's like home, it's no place I don't want to be anywhere.
protecting from a distance, further all the time. Dance to the radio. Dance to the radio. Dance to the radio. Dance to the radio. Oh, I was called out when the going gets tough. Things you learn out no longer enough. Well, now it's the sound. So we need to know to synchronize love to the beat of the show. And we could dance to the radio. Dance to the radio. Dance to the radio. Dance to the radio.
From the cradle bars comes a beckoning voice that sends you spinning. You have no choice. Choice, you hear lies.
face on the water, lips like sugar, lips like sugar. Just when you think you've caught her, she glides across the water. She calls for you tonight to share this moonlight. You flow down the river, she'll ask and you give her lips like sugar, sugar kisses. Lips like sugar, sugar She knows what you know. I know what she's thinking. Sugar kisses, sugar kisses. Just when you think she's yours, she's flown to other shores to laugh at how you break and melt into this lake. You flow down the river, and you never give her lips like sugar, sugar kisses. Lips like sugar, sugar kisses. She'll be my mirror, reflect what I am. Losing winner, the king of Siam, and my Siamese twin, alone on the river, mirror kissing, mirror kissing. Lips like sugar, sugar kisses. 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 starlit nights I saw you, so cruelly you kissed me. Your lips a magic world, your sky all hung with jewels. The killing moon will come too soon. Fate up against your will, through the thick and thin. He will wait until you give yourself to him. Against your will, through the thick and thin. He will wait until you give yourself to him. Fate up against your will, through the thick and thin. He will wait until yourself to him. You give yourself to him. and I can't relax. Can't sleep 'cause my bed's on fire. Don't touch me, I'm a real live wire. Psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est? Better run, 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 run away. Oh, psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est? Better run, 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 run away. и плеск души, лунный свет и майский дождь в небесах. Долгий век моей звезды, сонный блеск земной росы, громкий смех и райский мед в небесах. shudder to cry. Reply.
passager du vol Royal Air Maroc Air France 7473 à destination de Marrakech sont à retard sur le vol dans la salle de bord numéro 30.
With my naked eye, I saw the falling rain coming down on me. With my naked eye, I saw if I said it all, I could see. With my naked eye, I saw the falling rain coming down on me. With my naked eye, I saw if I said it all, I could see. Last night I came into your home to break some ice and throw some stones. I asked if we could be alone. I had some troubles of my own. Knew I had to say goodbye to all the old things held inside. If I let the moment fly, I knew they'd all be magnified. With my naked eye, I saw the falling rain coming down on me. With my naked eye, I saw if I said it all, I could see. It's not a choice I tried to make. It's not a thought I couldn't take. Something told me it was time to give you yours and leave me mine. My vision started to be clear. I watched the sunlight coming near. I knew the day, I knew the night. I knew I could regain my sight. And it feels alright. And it feels alright. With my naked eye, I saw the falling rain coming down on me. With my naked eye, I saw if I said it all, I could see. With my naked eye, I saw the falling rain coming down on me. With my naked eye, I saw if I said it all, I could see. Came around after dark, you were on nothing but a lark. Though I snuck in like an ark, I knew I had to leave my mark. Wanted to be satisfied, I tried to be dignified. Wherein nothing is divine, naked is a state of mind. And it feels alright. Betting on the bull and the heather.
Pick it up as we go along. I've been in a cave for 40 days, only a spark to light my way. I wanna give out, I wanna give in. This is our crime, this is our sin. But I still believe, I still believe. Through the pain and through the grief, through the lies, through the storm.
We are used to seeing things from a particular point of view. That is, from a particular frame of reference. And things look different to us under different circumstances. At the moment, things look
You look peculiar. You're upside down.
No, you're the one that's upside down.
No, you're upside down.
No, I'm not. He's the one that's upside down, isn't he?
Well, let's toss for it.
All right.
Okay. You lose. He's the one that's really upside down. You better come into my frame of reference now.
All right. My frame of reference was inverted from what it usually is. That view of things would be normal for me if I normally walked on my hands.
This represents a frame of reference. Just 3 rods stuck together so that each is at right angles to the other 2. Now I'm going to move in this direction. You see the frame at the same spot on your screen, but you know I'm moving this way because you see the wall moving this way behind me. But how do you know that I'm not standing still and the wall moving? It was the wall that was moving. Now the wall has disappeared and you have no way of telling whether I am moving or not. But now you know that I'm moving. The point of this is that all motion is relative. In both cases, I was moving relative to the wall, and the wall was moving relative to me.
All motion is relative, but we tend to think of one thing as being fixed and the other thing as being moving. We usually think of the earth as fixed, and walls are usually fixed to the earth, so perhaps you were surprised the first time when it was the wall that was moving and not Dr. Hume. A frame of reference fixed to the earth is the most common frame of reference in which to observe the motion of other things.
This is the frame of reference that you're used to. The frame is fastened to the table. The table is bolted to the floor is anchored in the building, and the building is firmly attached to the earth. Of course, the reason for having 3 rods is that the position of any object, such as this ball, can be specified using these 3 reference lines. This reference line points in the direction which we call up, which is a different direction here than it is on the other side of the earth. And these 2 reference lines specify a plane, which we call horizontal or level. In this film, we're going to look at the motion of objects in this earth frame of reference and in other frames of reference moving in different ways relative to the earth frame. Well, let's look at a motion. This steel ball can be held up by the electromagnet. Now I'm going to open the switch and you watch the motion of the ball. The ball is accelerated straight down by gravity along a line parallel to this vertical reference line.
As you can see, the electromagnet is mounted on a cart that can move. And I'm going to do exactly the same experiment that Dr. Hume did, but this time while the cart is moving at a constant velocity. The cart is pulled along by a string which is wound around this phonograph turntable, and that pulls it with a constant velocity. When the cart passes this line, the ball is released, as you can see. I'm going to start the cart down at the end of the table so that by the time it gets to this point, I can be sure it's moving with a constant velocity. Now, I want you to watch right here so that you will see the ball falling. I think you can see that the ball landed in exactly the same position that it did before. when Dr. Hume did the experiment with the cart fixed. But this time, the ball could not have fallen straight down. Let me show you why. The ball was released at that point. If it had fallen straight down, because the cart moves on in the time that it takes to fall, it would have landed back here somewhere. But it didn't. Now I'm going to do the experiment again. And this time, I'm going to let you watch the motion through a slow motion camera, which is fixed here. As the cart moves by, the ball will fall, and you can watch in the slow motion camera. I'll show you this again. This time there'll be a line on the film so that you can see the path. I think that you can see that the path of the ball is a parabola. But all of this has been in a frame of reference fixed to the earth. How would this motion look in a frame of reference which was moving along with the cart? Frame of reference like that. Well, so that you can see what it looks like, I'm going to fix this slow motion camera so that it moves with the cart. Like this. I'm going to do the experiment again. And incidentally, I'll start it, and then I'm going to stand here so that when the ball falls, you will have something which is fixed as a reference point. In the moving frame of reference, I think you could see that the path of the ball is a vertical straight line. It looks exactly the same as it did before when Dr. Hume did the experiment with the cart fixed. If we were moving along in this frame of reference and we couldn't see the surroundings, then we wouldn't be able to tell by this experiment that we were moving at a constant velocity. As a matter of fact, we wouldn't be able to tell by any experiment that we were moving at a constant velocity. I'm going to do the experiment once more. And this time, I'm not going to stand here behind the ball as it falls so that you won't have any fixed reference frame. As far as you're concerned, that time, the cart wasn't necessarily moving at all. That time, when you couldn't see the background, then I think perhaps it was harder for you to realize that you were in a moving frame of reference. The important thing to realize here is that all frames of reference moving at constant velocity with respect to one another are equivalent.
Dr. Ivy showed you what the motion of the ball that was released from the moving cart looked like in the earth frame of reference and in the cart frame. The motion looked simpler from the cart. Now I want you to watch the motion of this white spot. You probably see the spot moving in a circle. But this is what its path is actually like in the earth frame of reference. This is your normal frame of reference. You saw the spot moving in the circle because your eye moved along with the cart. You put yourself in the frame of reference of the moving cart. So you see, it isn't always true that we view motion from the earth frame of reference. When the motion is simpler from the moving frame, you automatically put yourself in that moving frame.
Now we're going to do another experiment on relative motion to show how to compare the velocity of an object in one frame of reference to its velocity in another frame of reference. If I give this dry ice puck a certain start, it moves straight across the table with a speed which is essentially constant because the forces of friction have been made very small. This is just the law of inertia. An object moves with a constant velocity unless an unbalanced force acts on it. Now, will you give it the same start backwards?
I'll try.
If Dr. Hume gives it the same start, it moves back in this direction with the same velocity. Now we are on a car here, a car which can move and which really is going to move in this direction, and we're going to repeat the experiment. All right, let's go. If we were making measurements here, then we would observe the same velocities, that is, the same experimental results that we did before. And so would you, because you are observing this experiment through a camera which is fastened to this cart. That is, you are in the moving frame of reference with us. But now we're going to do the experiment again, and this time you watch through a camera which is fixed in the Earth frame of reference. Now concentrate on watching the puck. Don't let your eye follow us. And I think you'll see that it'll move faster that way and not so fast this way, relative to you and relative to the wall behind. Here's the cart, which was moving along in this direction with a velocity u. And we were sitting on the cart at a table. Here I am over on this side, and Dr. Hume was on this side, and we were pushing this puck back and forth on the table. When I pushed it, it went in this direction with a velocity v, and when Dr. Hume pushed it, it went in this direction with the same velocity v, but this is the velocity relative to the cart. What about the velocity relative to an observer on the ground in the fixed frame? Well, if it was pushed in this direction, its velocity is u plus v. If it's in this direction, its velocity is u minus v. This is all very reasonable. There's nothing very hard to understand here. The surprising thing about this expression is that it is not accurate in all circumstances. At very high speeds, and by high speeds I mean speeds close to the velocity of light, this expression breaks down. At these very high speeds, we have to use the ideas about relative motion developed by Albert Einstein in his special theory of relativity. However, for all the speeds that we are ever likely to run into, this expression, u plus or minus v, is completely adequate.
So far, we've been talking about frames of reference moving at a constant velocity relative to one another. Now I'm going to do the experiment with the dropping ball again, only this time the cart will be accelerated relative to the Earth frame. These weights will fall and give the cart a constant acceleration. I'll put the ball up, and then I will release it. The motion is very fast, and I want you to watch at the point where the ball is released from the fixed camera. Ready? I don't know whether you saw that or not, but the path of the ball was the same as it was before, only this time it landed in a different spot. This is because the car kept on accelerating in this direction as the ball was falling. Now I'm going to let you see it again with the slow motion camera fixed onto the cart. This time you saw the ball moving off to one side and not following down the vertical reference line as it did in the constant velocity case. Now suppose you were in this accelerated frame of reference. How could you explain this motion? Gravity is the only force acting on this ball, so it should fall straight down. But if the law of inertia is to hold, there must be a force pushing sideways on the ball in this direction to cause it to deviate from the vertical path. But what kind of a force is it? It isn't a gravitational or an electric or a nuclear force. In fact, it isn't a force at all as we know one. So we're left to conclude that since there is no force that could be pushing in this direction on the ball, that the law of inertia just does not hold. This is a strange frame of reference. We call a frame of reference in which the law of inertia holds an inertial frame. The law of inertia holds in the Earth frame of reference, so it is an inertial frame. The cart moving at constant velocity relative to the Earth is an inertial frame, but the cart which is accelerated is not an inertial frame. Because the frame of reference that we're used to living in is one in which the law of inertia holds, when we go into a non-inertial frame, like the frame of the accelerated cart, our belief in the law of inertia is so strong that when we see an acceleration of the ball sideways, we think there is a force causing it. So we make up a fiction that there is a force. And sometimes we call this a fictitious force. Fictitious forces arise in accelerated frames of reference. The frame is accelerated in this direction, so you in the frame see an acceleration of the ball in this direction, and you say that there is a force causing it.
What's happening this time? Why doesn't the puck move straight across the table as it did before? As you can see, it doesn't. So, if we believe in the law of inertia, then we must believe that there is an unbalanced force to change the velocity of the puck. But this puck is nearly frictionless, so what can be exerting this unbalanced force on it? Suppose that you watch the motion, this time, through a camera which is fixed in the Earth's frame of reference. I think if you concentrate on watching just the puck, you can see that it is moving in a straight line, and that therefore there is no unbalanced force acting on it. Now we're going to stop this rotation so that I can talk to you about what is happening here. I don't know about you, but I'm dizzy. In the Earth's fixed frame of reference, there was no unbalanced force, but in the frame of reference rotating in this turntable, there was an unbalanced force because the velocity of this puck kept changing. This was a fictitious force. The rotating frame is a non-inertial or accelerated frame, just as the accelerated frame of the cart that Dr. Hume showed you was. You know that every object which is moving in a circle has an acceleration towards the center of the circle. This is the acceleration that has a special name, the centripetal acceleration. Now you hold this puck for a while, hold it steady, while the turntable is rotating, and I'll get off. Are you ready? I'm ready. Start the rotation. You can see that now the puck is moving in a circle. Dr. Hume is exerting a force to keep it moving in the circle, and you can see this from the fact that the rubber ring is extended. He is exerting the centripetal force, and this is the only horizontal force acting on the puck. But now let's look at it again from his point of view in the rotating system. He is exerting a force towards the center of the table, and yet the puck is standing still, or at least more or less still. There is some vibration. Now, he believes in the law of inertia, so he thinks there's an equal force on the puck away from the center of the table, so that there is no unbalanced force. This outward force on the puck is the fictitious force. In this case, sometimes it's called the centrifugal force. In the fixed reference frame, there is no outward force on the puck. Now, suppose that Dr. Hume stops exerting a force. Watch the puck. In the fixed frame of reference, the puck moves off in a straight line. There is now no unbalanced force acting on it. Now let's look at it again from his point of view in the rotating system. When he releases the puck, which to him was at rest, it moved. The force away from the center is now an unbalanced force on the puck, to him. Remember, to us, the outward force on the puck is fictitious, because in our Earth frame of reference, it doesn't exist. But to Dr. Hume, in the accelerated frame of reference, it's a perfectly real force.
I hope by now Dr. Ivy and I have convinced you that a rotating frame of reference is not an inertial frame. Now, you've all been told that the Earth is rotating about its axis, and that also it travels in a nearly circular orbit around the Sun. Why then do we find that in a frame of reference attached securely to the Earth that the law of inertia seems to hold? Why don't we observe fictitious forces? The size of the fictitious forces which we have to introduce in a non-inertial frame depends on the acceleration of the frame. The smaller the acceleration is, the smaller the fictitious forces that we introduce. Now, here is a frame of reference attached to the equator of the Earth. The acceleration of this frame is really very small. Because the Earth is spinning about its axis, it has an acceleration directly inward of 3/100ths of a meter per second squared. So on a 1 kilogram mass at the equator, there is a fictitious force acting directly upwards of 3/100ths of a newton. But this is masked by gravity, which is a force downward of 9.8 newtons. So the net downward force is smaller than that of gravity alone. So if I dropped a mass of 1 kilogram at the equator, the acceleration would be slightly smaller than that due to gravity alone, but not really very much. Now, the acceleration of the Earth in its orbit is even smaller still and produces even smaller effects in our frame of reference. Now, I said that the Earth was rotating about its axis. How do we know that this is so? Well, if you take a time exposure photograph of the stars, they seem to be moving in circles about the pole star. But all motion is relative. Is there any way of telling which is moving, the Earth or the stars? The fact that it is the Earth which is rotating can be demonstrated by means of a pendulum. If I set a pendulum swinging, it swings back and forth in a plane. Now, it turns out if this pendulum were at the North Pole of the Earth, the plane of swing would remain fixed relative to the stars, but would rotate relative to the Earth. Now, I'll have to show you what I mean. This pendulum is at the center of this turntable, which will represent the Earth. Now I'm going to start the table turning around in this direction. I'll put a black arrow on so that you'll remember. All right, start the rotation. The pendulum is at the North Pole of the Earth, and you are looking at its motion as you ordinarily do, standing on the Earth. The plane of swing rotates in the opposite direction from the rotation of the turntable and at exactly the same rate. Now look at it from the fixed camera, which will represent the frame of the stars. The turntable, the Earth, rotates, but the plane of the pendulum remains fixed. A pendulum used for this purpose is called a Foucault pendulum. You saw me start one at the beginning of this film. Let's look back again now. This Foucault pendulum drops sand as it swings. I think you can see the faint line where the sand trail began. The amplitude of swing is decreasing. The sand trail isn't as long now. But the important thing to see is that the plane of swing has been rotating during the half hour that we've been talking to you.
An inertial frame of reference is one in which the law of inertia is valid. All frames of reference moving at a constant velocity with respect to an inertial frame are also inertial frames. We use the Earth as an inertial frame of reference, but it is only approximately one. It has a small acceleration with respect to the stars, for example. The frame of reference of the stars is the best we can do when we look for a frame of reference which is, for all practical purposes, fixed.
An accelerated frame of reference is not an inertial frame. And when we are in an accelerated frame, we have to introduce forces, which we call fictitious forces, in order that the law of inertia and the other laws of physics don't change.
Modern high-performance aircraft require electric gyroscopic instruments. The turn and slip indicator, the attitude indicator, and the directional gyro. These electric instruments are dependable at extremely low pressures and temperatures, where gyrosuction instruments are unreliable. This film will explain the theory of operation of some of the newer electric gyroscopic instruments. To understand any gyroscopic instrument, you must understand the principle of the gyroscope. It consists of a rotor mounted in a gimbal. The rotor can spin in one plane only. When another gimbal is added, a second plane of movement is possible. And when this assembly is mounted in bearings, the rotor has three planes of movement and can assume any possible attitude. This is now a freely mounted gyroscope. A spinning gyro has two important properties: precession and rigidity in space. All of its practical applications are based on these two properties. As for rigidity in space, the spinning rotor remains in its original attitude, while the gimbals and base move around it. In other words, the gyro maintains its axis in relation to space and not to the surface of the Earth. If a gyro moves around the Earth, its axis is vertical to the Earth's surface here, at an angle here, and horizontal here. The gyro will resist any force that attempts to change its plane of rotation. This leads to the principle of precession. When a downward force is applied here, the gyro moves, but not in the direction of the applied force. Instead, it moves at right angles to the applied force. This action is known as precession. If an upward force is applied at the same place, the gyro again precesses at right angles, but in the opposite direction. The explanation is simple. The rotor is spinning in this direction. When the force is applied, the gyro precesses in a direction to align the direction of rotation with the direction of the applied force. The rate of precession is in direct proportion to the applied force. Small force, slow precession. Greater force, faster precession. If enough force is applied, the gyro precesses a full 90 degrees. However, at or near 90 degrees, it will tumble and go out of control. This disadvantage must be overcome in gyro instruments. Another disadvantage comes from the gyro's tendency to drift away from its original attitude. There are two types of drift. One is mechanical, due to friction in the bearings. This is actually a form of precession. The other type, known as apparent drift, relates to rigidity in space. Once again, consider this condition. The gyro maintains its attitude while the Earth turns under it. Every 6 hours, the gyro drifts through 90 degrees in relation to the Earth's surface. In order for the gyro instrument to be dependable, drift must be corrected continuously. There are several types of erection systems that correct for drift. The principle back of all these systems is based on 3 steps. The direction and degree of drift are measured by electrical or mechanical sensing elements. These elements then control the application of a proper force to the gyro, and it precesses back to its normal attitude. All gyros in this film are actually the rotors of electric motors. However, for simplicity, we will represent them like this, this, and this. We will start with the turn and slip indicator. It is really 2 instruments, each of which provides the pilot with information during a turn. This needle shows how much the aircraft is turning. This ball shows the kind of turn the aircraft is making. We will examine the turn needle first. It is actuated by a gyro, which is mounted in only one gimbal and in bearings that are secured to the case. The gyro can turn about the fore and aft axis, but not about the vertical axis. A spring restrains any movement of the gyro from its normal attitude. The gyro is linked to the turn needle like this. We will see how the property of precession is used to indicate the aircraft's rate of turn. When the aircraft turns to the right, forces are applied at the gyro bearings here and here. The rotor is spinning in this direction, so the forces cause it to precess in this direction. The linkage moves the needle in the direction of the turn. When the force of precession equals the spring tension, the needle indicates the rate of turn, as well as the direction. When the aircraft levels off, the spring erects the gyro to its normal attitude, and the needle returns to 0. A dampening piston and cylinder are linked to the gyro to steady any precession and prevent hunting by the needle. The ball is independent of the gyro. It is free to move back and forth in a curved tube. During straight and level flight, the force of gravity holds the ball in the center of the tube, and the aircraft is in balanced flight. During a turn, 2 additional forces affect the ball: horizontal lift and centrifugal force. When these 2 forces are equal, the aircraft is in a balanced turn, and the ball remains in the center of the tube. When the centrifugal force exceeds the horizontal lift, the aircraft skids, and the ball rolls toward the outside of the turn. When the horizontal lift exceeds the centrifugal force, the aircraft slips, and the ball rolls toward the inside of the turn. We will examine two attitude indicators, the H6 horizon indicator and the vertical gyro indicator. Each instrument continuously indicates the roll and pitch attitudes of the aircraft in relation to the actual horizon, and each obtains this information from a freely mounted gyro. The axis of the rotor is vertical and, due to the property of rigidity, will remain in this position as the aircraft assumes any attitude. Therefore, the gyro establishes a vertical reference from which roll and pitch deviations of the aircraft can be measured. It is unnecessary to cage the gyro in either instrument during any maneuvers. We will start with this one. This miniature plane represents the aircraft, and this bar represents the horizon. The horizon bar is mechanically linked to a gyro mounted in the case. The two supporting arms are connected to pivots at the rear of the outer gimbal and by pins to the inner gimbal. When the aircraft climbs, the gyro remains erect while the aircraft and case move around it. This action lowers the horizon bar below the miniature plane. The instrument now indicates the aircraft's present attitude relative to the horizon. At plus or minus 27 degrees of pitch, the horizon bar reaches mechanical stops and ceases to give any further indication of pitch up or down. Some models of this instrument have a scale to indicate pitch to 80 degrees plus or minus. In addition to the horizon bar, this pointer is secured to the outer gimbal of the gyro. It is used with these fixed markings on the case to indicate the degree of roll. When the aircraft rolls, the gyro remains erect and holds the pointer in this position, while the horizon markings roll around it. The degree of roll can be read here. The pilot can use these knobs to adjust the positions of the miniature plane and horizon bar manually. Since the gyro is linked mechanically to the horizon bar and pointer, the dial must be mounted in a vertical position. This model of the attitude indicator has a fixed miniature plane and roll markings on the instrument face. Back of the dial face is a sphere representing Earth, sky, and horizon, with 5-degree markings for climb and dive. It is universally mounted, so it can rotate around this axis 82 degrees in either direction, and can roll 360 degrees around this axis. This pointer can move only around the roll axis. A remotely mounted gyro controls the sphere through two electric circuits, one for roll, the other for pitch. A position transmitter is in the roll axis of the gyro, and another is in the pitch axis. They connect through receivers and amplifiers to the servo motors that drive the sphere in pitch and roll. Assume the aircraft rolls 30 degrees. This transmitter measures the roll displacement of the aircraft from the vertical reference. This measurement, in terms of a small voltage, goes through the receiver and amplifier to the roll servo motor, which turns to position the sphere and pointer. The degree of roll is indicated by the pointer and roll markings. Assume the aircraft climbs at a 30-degree angle. This transmitter measures the angular motion in terms of a voltage. The amplified voltage drives the pitch servo motor, which turns to position the sphere. The degree of pitch can be read on the horizontal markings back of the miniature plane. When the aircraft reaches 82 degrees of pitch, the gyro goes through a controlled precession of exactly 180 degrees. As a result, the sphere also exactly reverses its position and continues to indicate the aircraft's changing attitude. This knob can be used to position the sphere electrically. The dial can be installed at any angle because the gyro is not mounted in the instrument case. We will examine two directional compasses, the C1 directional gyro heading indicator and the MA1 compass system. And we'll start with this one. The aircraft heading is indicated here, and the reciprocal heading here. To obtain this information, the instrument uses a freely mounted gyro. Due to its property of rigidity, the spin axis of the gyro will hold its attitude as the aircraft and instrument case turn about it. Secured to the outer gimbal is a gear. Its teeth mesh with the teeth of another gear, to which the compass card is attached. Before it can indicate correct headings, the compass card must be set to the heading of the aircraft as indicated by the magnetic compass. The push-to-cage knob is used to make the setting, after which the gyro controls the compass card. Assume the aircraft makes a 90-degree turn. The instrument case turns around the gyro and lower gear. As a result, the vertical gear makes a quarter turn as it travels around the lower gear. So the compass card also makes a 90-degree turn. Any climb or descent will not affect the compass card unless the heading changes. However, if the pitch or roll of the aircraft exceeds 60 degrees, the gyro will tumble and may be damaged, and the instrument will give inaccurate readings. Therefore, when entering a maneuver that may exceed the limitations, the gyro must be caged. The instrument will be safe, but out of operation. When the maneuver has been completed, the magnetic compass heading must be set into the instrument again. In this instrument, apparent drift causes the compass card to drift away from its heading about 3 degrees every 15 minutes. And so, every 15 minutes, it must be reset to the magnetic compass heading. We have seen that a gyro is stable and accurate for short periods of time, but is subject to long-period drift. In contrast, a magnetic compass is accurate over long periods, but subject to short-period instability and oscillations. The magnetic compass is particularly accurate between 60 degrees north and south latitudes. But near either of the poles, the dip angle of the Earth's magnetic lines of force causes this compass to become unstable. The MA1 compass system combines these two instruments into one system that uses their advantages and eliminates their disadvantages. The magnetic compass, in the form of a flux valve, is mounted remotely in the tail or wingtip, away from the worst magnetic disturbances within the aircraft. The gyro are actually the rotors of electric motors. However, for simplicity, we will represent them like this, this, and this. We will start with the turn and slip indicator. It is really two instruments, each of which provides the pilot with information during a turn. This needle shows how much the aircraft is turning. This ball shows the kind of turn the aircraft is making. We will examine the turn needle first. It is actuated by a gyro, which is mounted in only one gimbal and in bearings that are secured to the case. The gyro can turn about the fore and aft axis, but not about the vertical axis. A spring restrains any movement of the gyro from its normal attitude. The gyro is linked to the turn needle like this. We will see how the property of precession is used to indicate the aircraft's rate of turn. When the aircraft turns to the right, forces are to become unstable. The MA1 compass system combines these two instruments into one system that uses their advantages and eliminates their disadvantages. The magnetic compass, in the form of a flux valve, is mounted remotely in the tail or wingtip, away from the worst magnetic disturbances within the aircraft. The gyro is also mounted remotely from the indicator dial. The system is designed for two modes of operation. In the free gyro mode, the gyro alone controls the indicator dial. In the slaved mode, the magnetic compass controls the gyro. We will first examine the slaved mode of operation. We will represent the flux valve as a magnetic needle mounted on the rotor of a synchro transmitter. The needle will remain aligned with the Earth's magnetic field while the aircraft turns in any direction. The stator of the compass transmitter is connected electrically to the stator of a synchro control transformer. The gyro's outer gimbal is mounted on the rotor of this synchro. When the outer gimbal is properly oriented to the magnetic needle, there is zero output from the control transformer. But if the aircraft changes heading or the gyro drifts around the vertical axis, the outer gimbal is not properly oriented. The control transformer immediately sends an error signal through an amplifier to the torque motor mounted on the inner gimbal. The torque motor applies the proper torque to the inner gimbal, and the outer gimbal precesses to proper orientation with the magnetic needle, at which time the error signal is canceled. The magnetic needle may oscillate and send an oscillating signal to the gyro. However, the gyro's rigidity in space is such that it does not respond quickly to slight changes in the needle. Instead, it aligns itself with the average position of the needle. Mounted above the gyro is a synchro transmitter, which continuously measures the deviation of the gyro case from the outer gimbal. It transmits this information to the indicator dial, where another synchro positions the compass card to indicate the aircraft's heading. Thus, in the slaved mode of operation, the gyro is a drift-free, stable indicator of magnetic direction. In the free gyro mode, the flux valve is disconnected from the gyro. When the gyro is oriented properly, it tends to hold that orientation. However, it is subject to apparent drift, which increases as the gyro approaches one of the poles. Apparent drift is corrected automatically by latitude compensation circuit. The aircraft's latitude is set manually into the system and changed whenever necessary. This sends an appropriate and constant voltage to this torque motor. The motor applies a constant torque to the inner gimbal. As a result, the outer gimbal precesses constantly at a given rate to offset the apparent drift, and the gyro sends accurate directional information to the indicator dial. Electric gyroscopic instruments are dependable at the low atmospheric pressures and temperatures in which modern high-performance aircraft must operate.
From the air age, through the missile age, and into the age of space, Our space-age heritage of knowledge is older than a decade, older than a century, older than a millennium. Our scientific knowledge has evolved through the ages concurrently with the minds of men. Our capacity to learn has expanded in the process. The challenging idea of exploring beyond our planetary boundaries is as old as history, probably as old as humanity itself. Concepts of the universe have changed, just as our knowledge of the Earth itself has changed. Compress the entire history of the Earth into 1 year. On this timescale, 8 months of the year would be devoid of life. During the succeeding 2 months, simple bacteria would come into existence. Mammals would not appear until the second week in December. Man would walk into the scene at 11:45 p.m. on December 31st. Recorded history would account for but the final ticks of the clock. Man's aerospace achievements, little more than the flicker of an eyelash. Hic deficit orbis. Here ends the world. So said an ancient map inscribed at the Pillars of Hercules. The two-dimensional world of early history was narrow, because man's knowledge of his environment was narrow. Ptolemy, for 1,000 years considered to be the greatest authority on astronomy, placed the Earth at the center of the universe. Copernicus, in 1543, advanced the idea that the sun was at the center of the planetary orbits, identified the Earth as one of these planets. Kepler, in the 17th century, described his 3 great laws of planetary motion, setting a pattern for the study of the solar system. Galileo, 17th century inventor of the telescope, who opened a new window to the skies with a device that could look at both sides of the present, using the antique light from distant stars to chart future voyages into space. Newton, who said of his 3rd law of motion, "This is the principle that will enable mankind in later centuries to undertake flights to the stars." Montgolfier, 2 brothers, sons of a papermaker from the little French town of Annonay, in 1783 achieved by balloon what the Wright brothers, the bicycle makers from Dayton, Ohio, did in 1903 in a strange new device called an aeroplane. And Goddard, who in 1926 launched a liquid-fueled rocket, and in 1935 sent a rocket 7,500 feet into the sky. Space is a place of knowledge and of progress. Space is the new psychological frontier. It provides us an emotional challenge. It stimulates our desires for knowledge and adventure. It increases our fears. It feeds our ambitions. Space is the new scientific frontier. The sky is no longer the limit. Human knowledge is doubling every decade, for ignorance is our enemy, just as surely as knowledge is power, power for good or power for evil. Man's judgment in the applications of technologies, particularly in the fertile fields of space, may well determine human destiny. Space is the new defense frontier. Survival of the fittest has acquired new meaning in our time. Strength has become the index to peace. Space is a place for security. Space begins just 50 miles away. How far it extends, no one can tell. We do not aspire to conquer space. We seek rather to understand it, to become proficient in space to the degree that we have adapted to the seas and to the air. Space is not really remote. And because it is close, it becomes an area of possible threat, just as the ability to fly made the airways a threat, or the capacity to navigate oceans made the seas a threat. Space is a place to preserve peace through understanding. But true understanding of space will come only if peace is protected. Scientific, technical and strategic preeminence in space must be reserved for the forces of freedom. Our ventures into space, once imagined, now real, lead us not away from this Earth, but towards a better understanding of our planet, of our solar system, and perhaps of ourselves. Space is a place of discovery. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time.
Echoing tonight, but she hears only whispers of some quiet conversation. She's coming in 12:30 flight. Her moonlit wings reflect the stars that guide me towards salvation. I stopped an old man along the way, hoping to find some more forgotten words or ancient melodies. He turned to me as if to say, hurry boy, it's waiting there for you. It's gonna take a lot to drag me away from you. There's nothing that 100 men or more could ever do. I bless the rains down in Africa. Gonna take some time to do the things we never had. The wild dogs cry out in the night as they grow restless, longing for some solitary company. I know that I must do what's right, sure as Kilimanjaro rises like Olympus above the Serengeti. I seek to cure what's deep inside, frightened of this thing that I've become.